Hi painters, today we're going to be making a watercolor technique sheet like you see right here, and we're going to be doing it on the last page of our packet, page 18. So I have a watercolor tray set up. I've put water in this because it's dehydrated, so you want to add water to this, let it kind of moisten these little palettes. I've also got a little bit of water, and I've got this great big watercolor brush that holds lots of water. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to section off my paper and label it. So I'm using a Sharpie felt tip marker because you'll be able to see it better, but I would do this in pencil on your paper. And we want to make a line down the middle, and then we want to make 3 lines going across to make 8 spaces. Then what we're going to do is we are going to label our spaces. So our first space is going to be called a graded wash. Our second space is a mingled wash. Our third space is going to be called salt. Our fourth space is tape, resist, followed by crayon, not grayon, crayon resist. This is scarring. This is dry brush. And this is blowout. Okay, so those are the 8 techniques we're going to learn how to do with watercolor today. So our first technique here, graded wash. A wash is when you have water. Okay, so anytime you're washing something, you have water. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna lay water on, not very exciting. Then I'm going to put water across the top and let it go. Now you'll notice that as I let it go, it's gonna keep going where the water is. And my water stopped here, so then it's gonna stop there. And a wash should have dark to light. For a mingled wash, it's going to be a wash. So wash means put water on first, lots of water, and then what you're going to do is you're going to drop colors in. You're not going to be brushing them really. You're just going to let them mingle. Mingle means getting together. Okay, so you'll notice I didn't brush that. I just dropped the color in and let the water do all the work. Now for salt, I'm going to start the same way I did with my other washes. I'm going to start with, and here's my salt by the way, it's just table salt. I'm going to do a wash, lots of water. I'm going to put the wash in here. I think I'll use black this time. If you use a dark color, it tends to work better with salt. Okay, oops. And then I'm just going to take a little salt while it's very wet and sprinkle it on. And over time, what's going to happen is that salt is going to create kind of a starburst effect, especially after it dries. And a lot of watercolor artists will use this for their sky. So moving on to tape resist, I've got some masking tape here, and what I'm going to be doing is just sticking some masking tape on, and where the tape is, the watercolor will not go there, and then it will be white after I peel the tape back off the next day. So here I go, I'm doing a wash, and you can see where the water got together, it's starting to bleed over. Okay, so now I'm gonna just put in some orange and red. You can do any color you want. And then you just have to let that dry. Maybe you want to throw a little salt into that. Give that a little extra Okay, so now we let that dry, and the next day we peel that off, and where the tape is, it will be white. It's resisting the paint, leaving the paper white. For Crayon Resist, I've got a wax crayon, and wax and water don't mix. So wherever I draw in a design and I'm pushing kind of hard, the water will not go where the wax is. And you can see how hard I pushed because I broke my crayon. Okay, so I've got wax on there. So now I'm gonna put some water on, and you can see my water's kind of dirty, so you can already see where it is resisting. Okay, and as that sits, it's going to resist where the crayon was, especially if I get it a little wetter. Okay, so that's Crayon Resist. Scarring is when you have an area, so let's do another wash. This will be our 6th one, and I'm going to use brown here, and I'm just going to mingle some stuff in here, maybe a little green in here. Okay, then I'm going to open up my scissors, and I'm just going to draw with them. So if I drew like some leaves in here, or not leaves, but like branches, the watercolor will seep into that area where you scratch the paper. And a lot of times you'll see artists do this to put in like grasses and stuff in the foregrounds of their picture. And then our next area is dry brush. Okay, so really what this should be called is dry paper, because your brush is always going to be wet. But when the paper's dry, what you can do is about anything, okay? So if I put these lines on here, they are not going to overlap. Well, they're not overlap. They're not going to drip together like I did with my washes because the paper's dry. When the paper's wet, the colors will glue together. But when the paper's dry, the colors just stay exactly where you put them. Then lastly, we're going to do a blowout line. And blowout lines are kind of like a dry brush technique. So that's where you're going to have a puddle of paint, and you're going to get your head down and blow them out. Like that. Okay? So you can overlap them. All right, so let's say I want to do green with that. So maybe I put a puddle of green here. All right, so there's some blowout lines. So now here the next day, I'm going to rub off my salt. I'm going to peel off my tape, and then underneath my tape, you'll notice that there is white paper, okay? Where I have the wax, it kind of shed off of the wax. All right, so this would be considered a page in your packet. So here we are at the sink with our watercolor palette, and watercolor palettes need to be treated a certain way so that they will last longer. These palettes, or the trays right here, are very old. They're like probably 20 plus years old. They've been here longer than I have. So I lifted the watercolor palette, or palette out, and then I've got the tray here. So then to clean the tray, I just rub it under the water. I can take a sponge, clean out that area. You can see some people haven't cleaned these out very good. There we go. All right, and now you've got your mixing area here, and then I just set that back in all wet, and I leave it open so that it dries out. What I don't want to do is I don't want to put this underneath the water, because that's like pouring paint down the drain.